Okay, what is your relationship like with money? Like, be honest. Is it healthy, toxic, avoidant? Do you know your credit score? Or are you like me and just hope it's okay while actively never looking? So growing up, we didn't really have a lot of money at all. We didn't have money. So I kind of built this belief that money made you a greedy asshole. Like if you had money, you were Satan. Like rich people were just selfish and cold and collected weird artwork. And that was it. And then I grew up and I started making money and I realized I'm not Satan. And money can actually be a tool for freedom and for peace and options. Now I'm going through a divorce and I nearly lost all of it. I still suck at budgeting. I don't really understand investing. I'm just still learning. You know, I once thought diversifying assets meant owning 2 different types of oat milk. So today's guest is important, especially for moms, single moms, for women who want to feel safe, secure, and financially powerful on her own. I mean, I am so embarrassed to say, like, I never looked at the accounts. I worked all the time, but I would never look at my accounts. And that obviously all changed in the last few years. Anyway, my guest is Codie Sanchez, and she's rich and she's hot. She's an investor, entrepreneur, former journalist, and the founder of Contrarian Thinking. It's a platform that teaches you how to build real wealth, often through boring ass businesses like laundromats, vending machines, and car washes. But she's helped millions of people get smart with their money in ways that's actually doable. No crypto cults, no hustle bro nonsense, just real practical tools for financial freedom. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed, underpaid, burned out, or like you're too late to get your shit together financially, this episode is for you. Let's go. Let's learn. Let's get rich and buy weird art. Thank you to Cash App for sponsoring this episode. Cash App is a safe, easy, and fast way to send, receive, and transfer money to family and friends, and even enemies. For a limited time only, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. For real, there's no catch. Just download Cash App and sign up. Use our exclusive referral code LAURAC in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. And thank you to Hungryroot for sponsoring this episode. I love Hungryroot. I love good food, and Hungryroot has it, and they make it so easy. Shopping, planning, and cooking food can be simple and stress-free. Just imagine having your weekly cart filled for you and your meals for the week decided on. Taking all that work off my plate is why I love Hungryroot. Take advantage of this exclusive offer, and for a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/idiot and use code IDIOT. That's hungryroot.com/idiot, code IDIOT, to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. Hungryroot.com/idiot, code IDIOT. Don't forget that, idiot. Okay, explain what you do in like very, very simple terms.
I buy and sell companies and help them grow. But maybe most importantly, I focus on Main Street businesses. So like landscaping, roofing, laundromats, car washes, etc. We sort of believe that those are the businesses that nobody talks about, but is where you can make a ton of money. And so I started off as an investor. And then I got a holding company, and now we have a venture fund. And I did all this in private equity before I got on the internet. And then I thought people on the internet should talk about the fact that you don't just have to make money podcasting or TikToking or starting a crazy new startup dating app, whatever, that you could actually do it with a laundromat, or you could do it with a roofing company, and that has just as much dignity and profit.
Wow. So like when you were a little girl, were you like, I want to be in finance?
Yeah, I was like, give me a laundromat.
I want a laundromat.
Yeah. Didn't you want that too?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, my first job when I was little, you know what a fun statistic is?
What?
They can predispose if you are going to be an entrepreneur or not by the time you're 12.
Shut up.
Yeah. 60% of all entrepreneurs, by the time that they were 12, had already had 1 or 2 entrepreneurial ventures. Mine was I stole my parents' books and I resold them to other people, which was not great, but that's what I did. And so one of the ways that you can push your kids to become more entrepreneurial is to get them to start little businesses early. And so my parents kind of leaned into that. So that was my first one. I sold wallpaper. I cleaned up golf balls. I liked the game of business. Like I kind of didn't care what. I was like, wait, I could do this thing and you could give me money. And then I could go buy things that I want and it's kind of fun. And so I did start that really early. Yeah.
That's a really cool fact.
Isn't that fun?
When I was like maybe 10 or 11, I would take my parents' video camera and I would make horror films with I would get all the kids in the neighborhood to be in them. And it was pretty disturbing. And I would film them and I would have a butter knife and I would do it like POV. And they'd be like, no. And then you could just like see the ketchup bottle. But like, is that?
Yeah, I think that counts. You're either a psychopath or should be a director. But no, I think, yeah. First of all, I think business is just a different type of creation, right? It's the creation of profits. But creating a movie is creating in a different way. They can also totally be a job or a pursuit. So I think that's really cool.
And I kind of turn it into one. I still make content 100%. For a living.
And what are the skills? You're learning leadership. You're learning to sell a vision to other people. You're learning how to actually take something from start to finish. So I think that's cool. But your parents must have giggled.
Oh yeah, they loved it. They loved it. Okay. So why boring businesses? Why laundromats and car washes? Which by the way, car washes aren't boring.
Yeah. Well,
they're so fun.
I kind of say it tongue in cheek because I love them. And I think there's actually something, man, I mean, have you ever, wanted to touch the thing that you make for a living? Like I was in finance for a long time and I sort of hated it. And so we just, we're on computers, buying, selling, buy, sell. And I didn't feel like we made anything. And so I think it started because I was like, I want to like touch the thing that I do every day. And so when I had my first laundromat, I was like, this is cool. Like this is mine. This little dirty thing is mine and I get to clean it up and people get to come there and like I can touch it. And that I think is really rewarding. But the reason that I went bigger into it is because they make more money. And so, if you think about it, the average startup, 90% of them fail. Mm-hmm. The average entrepreneur makes $46,000 a year. That is what entrepreneurship makes. And that is after 3 to 4 years of no profit. So we were sold this kind of lie of like, go start up your business. And then it's sort of funny, you go around in a room with a bunch of entrepreneurs and you ask them, so how many of you guys started your business and paid for the privilege of trying to make money for 3 to 4 years? Like, of course, it doesn't make money to start.
Yeah.
But these boring businesses, I watched the richest guys in the world, private equity, invest in these businesses and make money day one. And I was like, wait, why couldn't more of us do that just way smaller of a level? Like, why couldn't I buy a laundromat or a car wash? They're not that complex to understand. They don't cost that much money, at least relative basis for me back then. And
so how much did you buy your first laundromat for? How
100K.
Old? For $100K.
Yeah, it was $100K. It made $67,000 in profit. Profit included the person who worked there.
Okay.
So technically that's salary. So that's not a lot of money. But I was like, well, if I understand this first one and it works, can I just have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 and have the same person run 3 or 4 of them and then another person run another 3 or 4?
Yeah. And
you could. And so it's kind of like what we do with single family homes, except these things make way more money. So that was my thought. And I thought maybe I might be wrong, but I could at least try it. So I think more people should do that because you want to do businesses that have like a higher possibility of you making money over time. And we don't really look at the odds in our business. We just think like, I want to do this thing. My friends say they'll buy it. And then you start the business. And you're like, all right, friend, I started the business and none of them buy it, right? And so instead, let's do stuff that people actually need because then you can have your passion involved in it. You can turn your laundromat into a beautiful laundromat, You can turn your roofing company into a cool subscription. You could also add gardening to it if you want to. But let's start with making money because that's where freedom comes from. That's my idea, at least.
That's where freedom comes from. So it's not about, I saw a post you did about like people hype on, you have to be passionate about what you do. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think people who tell you that you need to do things because you're passionate are people who are already rich and they want you to think they're nice. I think it is a total and absolute fallacy. Nobody gets to do what they're passionate about and make money when they start. Even actors have to go through years of bullshit waiting tables, doing a bunch of nonsense until they eventually maybe get a little side gig. And so you can tell it live because the richest guys in the world, they go and they start Waste Management, let's say, the biggest trash company in the world, started by Wayne Hazinski. He started that company. Then he became a billionaire. Then he bought a couple sports teams. So the passion follows the profits. And that's what they don't tell us, because when you're really rich, people don't like to sound mean. And so they don't tell us the truth.
That's really interesting. My high school boyfriend, I'll never forget, he went to this like fancy Catholic school and I went to the big public school.
Yeah.
And I remember we were on a date, a little high school date. And I was like, what's your passion? And he goes, my passion's making money. That's what he said. And I was like, ugh, disgusting. Like I was so turned off. I couldn't believe he said that. Because I'm this like artist. I'm a writer.
Yep.
I want to perform because I love it, not because I want to make money.
Yep.
And I grew up that way. I grew up with this sort of lack mentality around money and finance. And guess what? We never had any.
Yeah.
So my mom was like, she was so passionate about teaching and that's what she did. And she would tutor all the kids in the neighborhood. And I remember she would charge them, if they were struggling, nothing. She'd do it for free. Or she'd charge them just the lowest amount possible. Meanwhile, Mary Ellen down the street would be charging $200 an hour, because my mom did it for the passion, because she loved it. But we did struggle. And so I sort of came out here with that lack mentality of like, I'm a starving artist. And you sort of romanticize it. And one day I got sick of being poor.
Yep.
Right. So I had to reprogram my brain around money. We're also told that rich people are evil and greedy and just like walk around with their manicured ball sacks out, drinking sparkling water all day.
Right.
Is it true? Is that true?
I don't have a ball sack, but I do believe that's probably what they do.
Yeah.
I think that's probably at the top of the list.
But so, how do we reprogram our thoughts around money? And
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, I think you got to be honest about the fact that being rich is much easier than being poor, and that the world is not kind to poor people. And so if we start there, we realize, all right, it kind of sucks more to be poor than it does to be rich. We know that at a base level. So if that's true, why would we villainize being rich when we actually want to be it? If you want something and you it, it's probably not likely you're going to get it. I mean, even if you're woo-woo universe alignment, we know that to be true.
Yeah.
And so I'd say, first of all, it's totally fine for you to go and chase your first couple $100,000 a year in income. And in fact, after they say $500,000 now, your level of happiness decreases. So go chase your first $500K a year in income. That's incredible. And then don't become frivolous and ridiculous with it. But I do think it's fine to start there. And we should allow more people to make money happily. That's totally fine. That's how this universe works right now. But the way that we reprogram is actually interesting, especially for women. I was pulling some statistics for you today. And there's lots of things that women are programmed for different than men. If you think about it, as a woman, our biggest mistake in making money is really one thing. We don't take as much risk as men do. And if you think about it, that makes perfect sense. In fact, there are lots of studies showing why. Because men are stronger. And so historically, they took more risk physiologically. Mm-hmm. And so because they did it physiologically, they could do it in their career. And so men took more risks and then they made more money. And that is a lot of reason why we started to have some of the gender pay gap. So then women started making risk part of their career. But then a new study came out fascinating from the University of Purdue. Mm-hmm. And the study showed that women who take risk in their careers are actually not as rewarded for it as men. So if you take no risk, you definitely make less. Mm. But if you take more risk or equal risk to a man, you still make less than a man. Well, why is that? And we can't prove this exactly, but we sort of surmise that the reason why is because women in the workplace who are too assertive or aggressive in traditional career paths, that's frowned upon. And we all know that. We've all felt that as women. If you come off as too aggressive, people don't love that. Yeah. And so that's why I always liked small business, because I found, well, in a career path, I think I was pushed out of like 3 companies for being too aggressive. And yeah, and I just wanted to win. That was it. I was like, I'm here to win. I'm not really here to make friends. Like that was just, I have friends and then I come to work. And I got pushed out of a couple companies for that. And then I went to small business and I realized in small business and startups, nobody cares. They want to win. They don't care about who is really, sweet and kind and whatever. They care about who's capable. And so if you are an aggressive, assertive woman, I highly recommend you get in a smaller game, because in big careers, they'll penalize you for being too aggressive.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? And the data actually supports it.
Wow. Okay, what is your all things butter strategy?
Oh, yeah.
Can I do it if I'm vegan?
Well, probably.
Okay.
So the idea is today if you want to make money, you want to apply the two highest forms of leverage that there are, which is, in my opinion, virality or ability to get eyeballs and capital. So having some money to put forward. The all things butter strategy is this fascinating group of guys, and one chef in particular, who created a butter company, like fancy butter, thyme butter and apple butter and all these things, and blew it up to a company that does millions of dollars a year only using TikTok. And the interesting part about this strategy for him is he didn't have extra capital, so he used audience instead. And he basically took viral videos, applied them to a product that he could market, and then didn't have to go the traditional range of venture capital. So it's not that dissimilar than what you're doing right now with, let's say, your podcast or a comedy. You're not like force functioning your growth through ads, aka money. You are creating viral pieces of content that drive people to what you do today. And the cool thing about this is, for those of us who maybe don't have the amount of money that some of the big companies do, we can use the internet and viral marketing to equalize that. They have to pay for the eyeballs. You can get the eyeballs through being creative, funny, and putting yourself out there.
So what do people do if they don't have $100,000 to buy a laundromat?
Yeah, well, there's really three ways that you can get a business without money. The first way is other people's money. This is how the richest people in the world buy businesses. It's called leveraged buyouts, LBOs. So essentially, you might be like, well, I found this laundromat. The laundromat is a great deal, and there's record levels of cash sitting on what's called the sidelines right now today. So big, huge institutions have all this money on the side. And you say, hey, do you guys want access to a deal? Just like you would if you were raising money for a startup. We just don't think of doing it to buy a business. We think only the big boys do that. So that's one. You get other people's money. That's raising capital. Two, you can do seller financing. So that's 60% of all businesses sold are sold using seller financing. That's where the owner of the business uses the profits of the business to allow you to buy the business because they want to bow out, or they want you to take over, or they have a new opportunity. Okay. And three is sweat equity, which is basically, all right, let's say I have $100,000 right now, and I want to invest in a laundromat, but I don't want to run the thing. Well, then I might say, okay, Tom, I want you to run this laundromat for me. You'll get a piece of the laundromat for that, skin in the game, and you earn into it with your sweat. And so I think it's a hard statement that took a long time for me to internalize, but if you can, I think it'll be really hard to be poor. And that statement is, you never suffer from lack of money. You suffer from knowledge of how to get money. And the richest people in the world, they don't always have the money to do the deals, but they know how to get in the rooms where other people do. So that's a little bit of what we try to teach more people how to do.
And anyone can learn that.
Yeah, I think anybody can definitely learn it. It takes a lot of head pounding against walls to do the work that is fundraising, or to do the work that is, becoming somebody who's worthy of taking somebody else's money and putting it to work. That stuff is hard, but it's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science. And you can just buy 10% of a company.
100%. Well, that happens every day. I mean, you think about the stock market. The stock market's just a public investment in companies to very small percentages. The problem is that those investments don't usually pay very well. That's 10% on average per year would be incredible. And so in small business acquisition, you can cash flow continuously, and you can have what's called asymmetric upside. Fancy way of saying the sky's the limit. You can keep growing. If you buy a house, houses grow at 3 to 4% per year. If you buy a business, you've seen your business, I'm sure, double, triple before. You've seen your business grow by 20, 40, 50%. That's the cool part about businesses. And then I've seen it
shrink too.
Well, that's true.
And we got to get into that later.
No risk, no reward, unfortunately. If you want to make money, you have to take risk. I wish there was another way. I've never found it. And then it becomes just, how do you figure out what kind of risk you're comfortable with?
Okay, so talk to the mom who left her job to raise babies and now feels totally trapped.
Well, first of all, I think the internet probably doesn't tell you enough that it's the most important job there is, and not in a fallacy, cutesy, pat on the head sort of way. Our society is literally f***ed if we don't have more moms that care about their kids, because the education system won't. And so what you're doing is hugely important, and you should never have to apologize for it. And fun fact, the average mom and all the services that she provides would be a 6-figure earner. So if you had to replace the cooking, if you had to replace the cleaning, if you had to replace the childcare,
The therapy.
yeah, probably the sexual relations someday. Like it would be a 6-figure earner.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to know that
Wardrobe
first of all,
stylist, all of it.
God, that's probably
They
a
do
lot
everything.
too. Yeah, and so it's important to note that first of all, you actually are doing probably 6 figures worth of work. It's just not paid in the traditional monetary sense. But second, like I was just with a woman yesterday. She owns a flower shop in Austin, Texas. We highlight small businesses all over the country and try to show people like any human can do this. And she bought a flower shop.
Okay.
She bought just the inventory. She used seller financing entirely to buy the flower shop.
What does that mean again?
That means that she went to the seller of the flower shop and was like, hey, I love what you're doing here. You're 65 plus. You might want to retire one day. Have you ever thought about transitioning the business, selling it? I don't have enough cash to buy the business outright, but I love flowers. Could I work here with you a little bit? And then if it's a nice relationship between us, could I actually have you finance me buying the business? I'll sell you the business with the profits over the next 3 to 5 years, kind of like an annuity, right?
Okay.
So every single year I'll pay you a little bit and you'll work less or not at all, and I'll run the business for you. And a lot of businesses are jobs, not businesses. And so this woman took over this flower shop. She had 4 kids. Her husband was working. She knew nothing about flowers. She knew nothing about buying businesses. She was a marketing person before this. And she bought this flower shop and now it's profitable. And she's probably going to eventually over the next 5 years sell it to her junior. And so what I would say is like, if you're a mom right now and you feel overwhelmed with kids, but you want to make some money, you want to make some income, just start doing something that I call the COI strategy. So you're basically going to start looking around for centers of influence in your local community. Who is the local flower shop owner? Who is the coffee shop owner? Talk to your landscaper, talk to your cleaners in your house, and start to get to know the owners of small businesses around you. Maybe there's something that you can do to help market one of those businesses. I mean, how many referrals do moms give each other?
Wow.
Like, think about it. I mean, right? Aren't you always saying like, hey, Susie, do you have like a roofer? My thing's broken. I need a new gardener. I need a new landscaper.
Yeah.
Like nonstop,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
I need childcare. I need XYZ. Well, if the business is small enough, you can actually get a percentage of the business just from referring new customers to that business. So start to get to know your local neighborhood owners and then start to think about, where are people always asking me for recommendations? What am I kind of uniquely good at? Is it
Okay, so then you go there, you find the business. If it's like a threading place where they thread your eyebrows, whatever it is, how do you pitch that woman? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I would say something like this. I would say something like, this is incredible. I love your business. You know that. I've been coming here forever. You own the place, right? How long have you owned this place for? That's so cool. Do you want to keep doing this forever? Have you thought about like continuing to run this business? 2 paths. They go, oh yeah, I want to run this business for 30 more years. Okay, cool. Second path. I actually am thinking about a new business venture. All right. Either path is fine. Because if it's the business path where they want a new venture, you say, you know what? I've been a mom for a while. I'm looking to get my next venture. I actually am looking to buy a business like yours. Have you ever thought about selling your business for the right price and terms? Obviously. At which point they'll say, yeah, every business owner. If you catch them on a bad Tuesday, they're like, buy it tomorrow, please. And so you tell them that, the business owner, and you start to get to know each other. And then you have a conversation about valuation. This is where you have to learn, but it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It will take some time, but you can learn in like 30 days the key tenets of how to buy a business. And then if it's the other one, which is like, no, I want to stay in this business forever, that might even be better for you as a mom, because you could just stick your like little pinky toe in the water instead of diving all the way in. And you could be like, listen, I refer you a bunch of clients, don't I? Yeah. You've talked about wanting to do more marketing, haven't you? I actually like marketing and I like talking to people about your business. How much money do you make per year in this business? Like, what's the revenue of it? You'll be shocked how often they tell you. And then say, okay, so if I increased your revenue in your business, would you give me a percentage of the business, only of the revenue that I increased? We could see if this works out, all upside for you. Don't pay me anything if this doesn't work out. Yeah. This is called sweat equity. And that's how you get part of your threader's company. And it's a win-win for both of you guys.
Wow, that's genius. A lot of women hate to talk about money. Why do we do that and how do we undo it?
Oh yeah, women, We have to get better at speaking about money.
You guys ever sent money before on an app? And it was annoying because the app was confusing, or like it told you to put your password in and you couldn't remember it. Same. That's why I changed to Cash App, because Cash App is the best. It's better than all the other apps. And I'm not just saying that because they're paying me, okay? I'm saying it because they're safe, they're easy, and it's a fast way, the fastest way to send and receive and transfer money to family, friends, acquaintances, hookups, whoever you want to send money to. You just enter your phone and email. No bank account needed. Cash App saves you time by letting you send money fast, because I know you're in a fucking rush. For a limited time only, new Cash App users can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. That's more money. For real, there's no catch. You just download Cash App and you sign up. Use our exclusive referral code LAURAC in your profile and send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and then you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Thank you to Hungryroot for sponsoring this episode. Shopping, planning, and cooking food can be really simple and stress-free. There's so many meals I just would never have picked. So I'm one of those, I'll make 3 dishes over and over and over and over and over. And I mean, by 3 dishes, I mean 1. So I was like, I can't eat baked potatoes anymore. I can't do it. Actually, I can. I love them, but I need to switch it up. So I got Hungryroot, and now they're sending me all these amazing, fun recipes that I would never make. And what's really cool is I could be like, I have 5 minutes. How can I make dinner in 5 minutes? And they'll give me a 5-minute recipe. Or I'll be like, I have 45 minutes, and they'll give me a 45-minute recipe if I want to take my time in the kitchen. I've got 6 hours. What can we make in 6 hours? I don't think they have a 6-hour option. But anyway, some of my favorites are, there's a spicy vindaloo chickpea rice bowl. Tzatziki black bean burger bowl. Oh my God. They've got vegan tacos with rice and beans, miso cal salad with crispy chickpea, portobello mushroom avocado tacos. Hungryroot has learned my tastes and tailors my orders to me. They know I'm plant-based, but they have options for everyone. It's the best food delivery service in my opinion. Make sure to take advantage of this exclusive offer. And for a limited time, you get 40% off your first box. Plus you get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/idiot and use the code idiot. Again, that's hungryroot.com/idiot, code idiot, and get 40% off your first box and free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/idiot, code idiot. The food is so good. I'm making stuff I never normally would. Go to hungryroot.com/idiot, code idiot.
I know that it's uncomfortable. In fact, there's some really crazy statistics about women and money. One is, not to get Debbie Downer on us, but in a divorce, women on average lose 23 to 73% of their income. So somewhere between 20 and 70% of their income, a woman loses post-divorce.
They lose their income, not the income.
Communal income. So their income, if you think in a marital status, because, your husband makes X, you at least will be making X. Women actually lose monetarily in divorce, which isn't the common narrative right now. They tell us, oh, gold diggers, they take all my money after you left. Actually, that's not the case. It's a decreased income typically after divorce. Men, however, interestingly enough, they increase their income slightly or stay stable. And so I think as women, one, we've got to talk about money more, because the way that you keep money post-divorce, not that I wish that on anybody, but the way that you keep it is you know where your money is. And so most women, 66% of women, let their husbands handle the finances.
Girl.
And say 83% of women say men know more about finances than I do. My husband knows more, so I'm not going to be in charge of it. Well, if you're not in charge of it, you don't understand it, and you don't know where it is, how are you going to get any of it? And so again, I'm happily married. I want all of us to say happily married. But if that's not the case for you, you've got to be able to track your money, because money is a cruel mistress and she will leave you if you don't know where she is.
I'm embarrassed to say that was so me.
Well, yeah.
Even though I was technically the breadwinner, I was bringing in the money. I never looked. looked. I
Yep.
never looked at the accounts. I just, nope, I like creating, I like making things, but I don't want to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Why do you think that was? Does that go back to your like childhood and
I
not
think
liking
so.
money? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though I feel like I reprogram my brain to have this abundant mindset, which is why, and it's not like a woo-woo thing.
Yeah.
The law of attraction, for me, it's actually very logical. It's just focus more on what you want rather than what you don't want.
Yes.
We spend so much time thinking about what could go wrong. Let's channel and discipline our focus into what can go right and focus there and live there. And so I just started doing that. And I started just believing that I was deserving of it. I think deservability plays a big part in it.
Yeah.
And believing if it was possible and just focusing on it, I would visualize every single morning I'm making millions of people laugh around the world and making millions of dollars doing it. I would see their faces around the world laughing just from my dumbass videos. And before you know it, within a few months of that, I had my first viral video. Then the brand deals started coming. Then I built a clothing brand. Then my following grew to over 26 million people. And I do believe mindset was a huge part of it because there are people that are funnier than me, way smarter than me, prettier than me that didn't make it.
Yeah.
And it's that belief that it's not possible for them. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I think it seems like a strong argument. I do think there's something really real about can you pull together aspiration? Can you pull together this visualization, which is what you're doing? And can you pull together action? And if you can like aspire, you can visualize, and you can act, you're one of the few. Because I think these days, a lot of us think, well, like, I'm going to manifest it to me. Manifestation without action is really just mental masturbation in my mind. That's like, you're not going to make a baby. Like you might have some fun and it might feel good, but like no baby's going to be made.
I think you're more likely to take action though, if your head is in that space, you know? And I would argue that like comedy is my passion. So I did get to do that, but it's actually what I'm good at.
Yeah.
It was my skill.
Yeah.
So it's like, I saw that very early on. I was like, oh, I can make people laugh all around me. Okay. So how can I make money doing the thing that I'm good at?
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, for women in particular, getting comfortable with money is weird. For some reason, we don't like to talk about it.
Girl.
And I also think that there's a lot of studies now that show that we don't like to date men who make less than us. And it sounds like you did that the first go round. I've done that twice, I think.
Well, actually, with me, he made more. And
to
then
start. Okay, that's what happened to me too.
Okay.
Well, that's what happened to me the first time.
Okay.
And then this time, my husband is a former Navy SEAL, so he didn't make very much money. But what worked for me in this go round of marriage was I found a guy who played a totally different game than I did. And I think if you want to marry somebody who is a high performer, and his performance game is money and your performance game is money, that can be really tough.
Whoa.
Because there's natural competition, right?
Uh-huh.
And competing with your husband, and especially like that feminine masculine dominance thing, is hard. But when you have a husband or a partner who's playing a totally different game.
And what's his game?
His game is, he thought that serving his country was the most important thing in the world that he could do. He believes like being strong physically, mentally, being a protector, and actually serving is his calling. And so if he makes money doing it, incredible. And now he does, but he would be completely uninterested in finance. He couldn't pay him enough money to do what I used to do.
So do you talk to him about finance?
Totally.
Is he interested?
He's very interested in—
Because he loves you, not because it's—
Yeah, and he's very interested in providing real value. Like that's what drives him. He's like, I want to be needed and I want to feel like what we do matters. And if we do that, then I'm happy. And if we profit off of it, amazing. And typically, I do think profit is really just your payback for service. So like you don't make money unless you serve.
I love that. That was another huge shift for me early on, was like I was so scared. I was so scared because I was in like bad sitcoms and commercials for years, but none of them were mine. Yeah. I didn't know them. They weren't mine. So if they failed or flopped, it didn't matter because it wasn't me.
Yeah.
But it was low risk.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, no, I want to make my own stuff that I own, that I love, that I care about. But the risk was so much greater.
Yeah.
And so I shifted my mindset from what can I get to what can I give? Because I realized the fear was so based in, oh, what are people going to think of me? Or is this business going to fail? Or am I going to look stupid? Or are they going to hate what I have? It was all about me, do, re, me.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I shifted it to what can I give? How can I serve? How can I add value? and it became service. And so it didn't matter if it was 5 people that I was being a clown for. Those 5 people, I made their day better. And everything became, what can I give rather than what can I get? And then ironically, I started getting so much more. But I have to remind myself of that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because, right? It can't be so easy to be like, oh, money, it can be addicting.
Totally.
Success and fame and money or what, all of it.
You can make money doing anything as long as your skills align and the market wants it. So there has to be supply and demand. You have to be the supply with your skills, and the market has to have a demand for what you offer.
But what if you want to do something and there might not be an audience for it, but you believe in it so much? At what point do you go like, okay, let me just give people what they want versus doing what I want and I believe in?
I've never met anybody that is like, I only want to sell succulents. That's it. I will sell a succulent or I will die starving and poor.
Sure.
They're like, I love plants. I love planting. I love the feeling of gardening.
Mm-hmm.
I love the color combination. I actually like the composition of putting something together.
Yeah.
And so it's actually realizing that you have limited yourself by describing your love or passion so small.
Okay.
And instead you should say, all right, I love plants and gardening and composition. I love all these things. Like take a whiteboard out, write down all the things you love about what you are passionate at today. In the next concentric circle, so like a Venn diagram, 2 circles overlapping. In the next circle, write out all the things you are really good at. Oh, I'm actually really good at keeping them alive. I'm really good at buying them cheap. I'm really good at pulling pots and putting them together. I'm really good at design. It's actually not even plants I'm good at. It's just like overall design and aesthetics I'm good at. Look at those 2. And then overlay at the top, profit. Where do people want the thing that you are wanting to sell? And a couple easy ways to do that are like, look at Facebook Marketplace. Are there a bunch of people on there that have Facebook groups about succulents and buying and selling them? And once you have that concentric circle of overlap, you can figure out something to sell somebody that does align with your passion. But I think our problem is that we limit ourselves into these little boxes. So you say you like comedy, but you don't just love comedy, because I can tell like you're very aesthetic. The way you've set up things is like very specific. You also like talking about and thinking about virality. So you're kind of algorithmic, where you game a little bit. What happened? Oh, people like talking about this. So I want to play this game here. Oh, I like connecting with people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a podcast. So there's all these things in your comedy circle. I like making people laugh. Well, how could I do that? It could be a sitcom. It could be actually a commercial. It could be a skit. It could be a live show. And so, don't limit yourself.
Could be books. I've already written 2.
Exactly. So now your circle of things that you're passionate about, plus things you're good at, plus things people pay for, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I had this one mentor that I love, Bill Perkins, and he said something to me that just punched me in the gut. I was pitching him this really big idea, I thought, of this company I wanted to do next. And right as I'm like about to finish it, it's my big moment. I'm so excited. He just looks at me and he goes, do you think that you've been around small business for so long that small has infected your thinking? And I was like, Jesus, Bill, like what the bro?
Good morning to you too.
But he did me a huge favor. I took a step back and I was like, yeah, you're right. That's a little small. How could I go bigger? And so to your point on value, he actually valued me and my time and skills more than I did. And so how can you get around other people who actually see you on the cover of a book even bigger than you do? And that's a real life unlock.
What do you think about the whole Tradwife movement? I feel like that's kind of coming back, and we're being told a lot online to just like fully depend on the man.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that?
Depends on the day. Some days I'm like, sign me up. That sounds great.
But how do women protect themselves if something happened? I mean, 56% of people are getting divorced, and women are often left with nothing.
One of the things you see with a lot of the Tradwives, they have businesses. I mean, there's one
That's
I follow
the irony.
online. Yeah, they're like girl bosses that also
They're cosplaying Tradwives.
Yeah. I think there's a big group of people like cosplaying blue collar dudes who aren't blue collar and cosplaying Tradwives. And so the Tradwife movement to me is more about opting out of super materialism, opting out of traditional education, traditional beauty norms. And a lot of them that I see are pretty financially sound. I mean, I follow this one girl and she has an entire tallow skincare company. And so I think that the thing holds true, which is that you can be an incredibly loving wife and mother and support system. And you can also opt out from societal norms such as Botox and fillers and whatever. But regardless, it is helpful for both members of the family in this world in which the ultimate form of like war is financial, to be able to fight with a weapon. Just like a traditional housewife on the prairie would have known how to shoot a gun, you should know how to shoot a gun in finance today. And I think that means that you have to understand your money no matter whether you're a Tradwife or whether you're a girl boss or whatever the people are calling themselves these days.
And so what is the first step for women who don't feel like they have an understanding or control of their money? Okay, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try. You need it. If you follow me, you need it, okay? At betterhelp.com/idiot, you can get on your way to being your best self. Look, there's a lot of strength that comes from maintaining a healthy mind. For me, talking to someone every single week, getting open and vulnerable has given me a healthy mind and honestly tools to deal with life, because life can be really difficult. I'm wondering if you've benefited from therapy. Share your experience. I know for me, it's given me a lot of tools. Like one thing my therapist said that sticks with me all the time is that when you're in a relationship, your partner is your supplement, not your source. And this is, for me, someone who came from an incredibly codependent relationship for over a decade, where if he was having a bad day or if he was angry or if I was angry, like it ruined my day. I couldn't function. And I was just so codependent in every way on my partner. And my therapist, I don't know why that sentence really changed everything for me. He said, your partner is a supplement, not a source. You're your source. I recommend you join BetterHelp. So with over 35,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an app store rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client reviews. It's also very convenient. You can join the session with a therapist at the click of a button in your underwear. I mean, I wouldn't film your underwear. That would be probably crossing a line. They would report you. But I'm just saying, in theory, you could just have a shirt on and no pants and just keep the shot from here up and just be in your bedroom. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you to show your therapist your vagina. Anyway, you can join a session with a therapist at the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy, busy life. Plus, switching therapists at any time is easy. As the world's largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide you with access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/idiot. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/idiot.
The beautiful part about getting rich and making money is the first thing you should do is you just look at your bank account every day. This is just awareness. Where awareness goes, energy flows, old Tony Robbinsism, except it's true. And so one, you just got to know what's in there. And you got to know what you spend. And that's the real simple version of it. The second version of that is you got to figure out what your skill set is. Because the real way that you make money is you learn, then you earn and increase your earnings, then you invest, and then you can duplicate, go back to the first. So learn, earn, invest, and then reverse. And so I think for most of us, we don't know where our money is. We're not tracking it. It scares us to look at our bank account and spending. That used to be me. I didn't want to look at what I was spending.
That used to be you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't come from money. I remember every time I looked at my bank account, the thing I was most scared of was just having overdraft fees. I remember the $30 Chase Bank fees, and those would kill me, and I'd have to call and try to negotiate out of them and why it wasn't right. And I got pretty good at that at some point.
When and how did that shift happen for you?
So all of college, I would say, I basically never had any money. I was always trying to figure out how to get an extra dollar here or there, working a bunch of different jobs. I thought I wanted to be a journalist. So journalists make no money. And so I was going to go into journalism. And then I covered human trafficking and drug smuggling along the US-Mexico border. And I saw actually things happen to women that nobody should ever see. And it was then that I realized, okay, the real difference isn't that they're Mexican and I'm American. The difference is that I have capital and resources and they don't. And people who do not have money, the world pushes their will on you. And I don't think that's fair. And so I basically got into finance and I was like, I need to understand how this game gets played. And so if you want to understand how the game gets played, you should go where it's played most often. So I went into finance for that reason. But you don't have to go into finance to be good at money. You just have to start paying attention to it. And then you have to start learning about it, 20 minutes a day, listening to some things about finance, no big deal. And then you have to start increasing your earnings and your skill set.
So 20 minutes a day, what do you recommend people listen to?
Well, let's say that you want to obsess on personal finance. There's usually two reasons why. One, you're in debt. Most Americans are in debt. The best person to listen to on getting out of debt, in my opinion, Dave Ramsey. He's become a friend. He's an OG. He's done this for decades for many people. So just go and listen to Dave Ramsey every day. If you're not in debt, but you want to figure out how to make more money, I'm more of the category that the best way to get out of debt is to earn more, not save more. I just think mathematically, Dave would disagree with me. He would say, save more, focus on that first. And I would say, have the Starbucks coffee. You know, that's not going to break you out of student loan debt. Have the Starbucks. But when you're having the Starbucks, don't around on Instagram. Like go out there and actually obsess on making more money. And I think the way that you do that, we have a podcast, you can listen to that. But it should be obsessing on one skill. And the best
Obsessing on one skill.
And it's sales.
Because I think a lot of people have a million good ideas that they never execute. There's just too many. So what? It's just like pick one.
I think the most important skill you can learn to make money is to sell things. It's the fastest way for you to transfer your time to $1. And so whatever you sell, that is the fastest way to do it.
What should I sell?
What is your business right now?
Girl, that's the sad thing. Well, it's not sad, but you know, like I said, back in the day, like my goal has always been to just make people laugh and make a great living doing it. So yeah, I started doing that through building my audience.
Yeah.
And then through that came a lot of brand deals.
Yeah.
Monetization. You know, at one point I was making 6 figures a month on monetization alone.
On like YouTube?
Facebook primarily. I would post one 3-minute video a week, and I would sometimes make $100,000, $200,000 on just that one video.
And what has that decreased to now?
I'm probably at 20,000 a month on Facebook.
Yeah.
And posting way more content
Which
than
maybe
I ever
sounds
did.
like a lot to people, but if you think of that differential from 120K down to 20, that's huge. That's massive volatility. But that actually happens with every platform. So they usually start really open funnel because they want to attract brilliant people like you. Yeah. And then as they attract you, they stop paying the same amount because that's how they increase their profit margin, which is why I hate monetization as the highest form of income.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was years of that. And I gotta say, my manager thought I was crazy at the time because I was taking Facebook so seriously. And he was like, at the time when I started posting content to Facebook, they didn't even monetize it. And he goes, what are you doing? They don't even monetize it. I said, yeah, but I'm one of the first creators on there. So my shit's going off on there, whereas YouTube is so saturated that it would take me way longer. So I just put my focus into Facebook, and then boom, one day they
turned it on.
And I was laughing all the way to the bank. But so that, and obviously that led to consistent brand deals. At one point it was 6 figures a month on brand deals. Well, now all that's changed, right? They're not paying big creators anymore 6 figures to promote their lip gloss because you have affiliate marketing now. So they're finding these micro influencers. They're literally paying them a couple $100 and they're saying, hey, promote my lip gloss and you'll get 10% of whatever you sell. Yeah. And that's what's happening. And my inbox is now flooded with affiliate deals. Yeah. And I'm going, well, I'm too big for this, for affiliate deals, or am I? Do I just need to shift and grow with what's happening?
So you have monetization, you have brand deals, you have a book.
Okay, so then 2 books, which sold really well. Yeah, but they take time. Like I'm writing my 3rd book.
Books are not very good for making money.
Yeah, sad. You know, and I signed with Simon & Schuster, so like my margins were so
Yeah. You're like making 25% tops.
Girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a passion. I love it. I'm so proud of my books. I love them. Hundreds of thousands of people bought them.
Yep.
And I'm excited. And I want to keep writing books because I love it. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's meaningful and it's not nothing.
Yep.
So books. Then I had a clothing brand.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Around the pandemic, I got approached to start a clothing brand and I did it for a few years. And it was with a venture.
Like white labeled? Somebody else ran it and did it. And you put you kind of had some creative direction, but didn't have to actually fulfill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly that.
Okay.
So I would like take design calls every week and like send them, like I would do the drawings of exactly how I wanted to look, but they would run it.
I like that.
For me. And so that made probably a few million over like 2-3 years. And to be honest, I felt like I was having babies. Like I just had, my son and I felt so overwhelmed. And it was, even though I wasn't running like the back end part of it, it was all me. Like they weren't spending money on any sort of ads. So it was all me. It wasn't even affiliates.
So you had a job, not a business.
Yes. And so I was constantly pushing sweatsuits and I was soul crushing. Like I just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. And I felt like even my fans were like, shut the fuck up about this sweatpants, dude. We get it. Yeah. Gotta buy them, gotta buy. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. I couldn't do it anymore. So I just started promoting it less. And what do you know? People stopped buying it because it was so dependent on me. It didn't grow bigger than me. Yeah. And then, so I just kind of, that fizzled out because I wasn't passionate about it. Yeah. I don't know. And
well, 30-second analysis, which is probably worth what I'm giving it to you for, which is nothing. But what I found, especially for women, is that we often try to do it all, right? We try to run the business, come up with the ideas, do the creative, do the producing, do the ads, do et cetera. Men are actually pretty good at delegation. In fact, lots of research to suggest that men delegate more than women. And one of the reasons why we have jobs, not businesses, is often because we don't hire pros that can take the part that is not our circle of genius and run with it. And I'm very guilty of this too. But when
you're like, I can do, in theory, I can do it all.
Yeah. And but we go, like, no. We have a higher perfectionism curve than men do. They ship product faster than we do on average. And these are all the things we know from being married, right? You're like, no, wait, don't, you said it like that. The house is dirty. Why would you let it, right? But men are like, that's fine. Everybody's okay. And so in business, what I've found is the real unlock is when you have a business that is working, and let's say by working, people are buying the thing that you're selling. If you continue to do most of the business and not hire people smarter than you in other aspects to remove yourself as what's called key man risk, being the one person that's in charge with everything, if you don't eventually do that, you'll burn out and the business won't be repeatable and you won't get big enough where you have a business that lasts beyond you. And so, in your next ventures, what I would ponder is how do I hire people? I'm not a huge fan of partnership, especially for people who have audiences, because who's going to be able to provide enough value to you when you are the creator and the advertiser of a product? It's hard. But I really think that hiring is the massive unlock. Every business, you are like one key hire away from a totally different business. So in your next venture, you might think every time something is soul crushing, ask yourself, not how do I fix this, but who could fix this for me? And every time I move from how to who, my business gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger.
Wow. Every time I move from how to who.
Yeah. Every single time. Think about it. It's like, how could you keep your house clean simultaneously with all your babies? Well, it's not by you doing it.
That's right.
It's you get a who and then you get another who. And then you might even get a who that takes over oversight of all of the who's around your house.
That's really interesting. And I'll say too, I was married for 11 years. My ex was a film composer. I was a struggling actress. And then I got fed up having zero control over my career and just waiting for the director to hire the lanky blonde girl. And I just wanted more control. So I started making videos obsessively every single day for an entire year. And that's how I started to grow. Then my business became successful, then Steven came on, my ex, and started doing the music for it and helping me produce it. And we were just this team. And I had this person that I could lean on. And guess what? He was fully, I wouldn't say in control of the finance, but he was the one looking at it, dealing with it, talking to our business manager, bookkeepers. I was not involved because I didn't want to be. And that was my mistake. And I regret that. And I will say, when we split up 3 years ago, I was so depressed and, just from the change of it all and the trauma. Oh my God, stop. The trauma of it all.
Yeah.
And you have like a 1 and a 3-year-old. And now I have this massive, mortgage. And then we have a house down the road. And I was literally financially responsible for both of them for the last 3 years, paying. I mean, my monthly was you would die. It was so much. And when your business is being funny and you feel anything but, it's like, oh my God.
100%. Well, and that's so real. I think every woman, I'm divorced too, I remember the exact same feeling. I remember my dad said something to me when I had to stroke out a check after getting divorced. And he said, there's always an exit price to freedom. And, at the time when that happened to me, I was so upset too. I and it sounds like you too. You lose a husband, you lose a partner, you lose this marriage. Maybe you even lose the house between the two of you. And I lost a business, and it sounds like you did too.
Yeah, he was my business partner. And then I'm alone with my ideas, and I'm just overwhelmed. And so you just, I'm finally climbing back out.
Yeah.
But I still feel a bit lost and confused on where to go.
Yeah. Well,
help me.
I think that's just so real.
Yeah.
And you got to be first of all, I do think the thing about entrepreneurship is it's so hard. And every time you think it's going to get a little bit easier, it's just higher levels, bigger devils. And so that is true.
Wow.
But simultaneously, don't you also look back at the things that young you struggled with your first business and kind of chuckle? That's what helps me when I'm in a really difficult, dark place. I call it the head in the hands in the middle of the night with no idea what to do next moment.
Yes.
When I get one of those moments, I think back to young Codie, who was like, how do I start an LLC? Do I have business cards? The level of the problems that overwhelmed me then versus now kind of remind me that I'm way more capable than I think. And that, I think, is the biggest unlock for you. It's what's your next level where you're like, look at where I've come. Remember where we used to be. Look at where we are today.
Right.
Us back then would think we were perfect. The young you in this beautiful house with all these followers online, they wouldn't see all the problems and everything, but they would she would be like, we're rich and
we've
we're
made
cool
it.
And we're hot and people like us online and we have children.
Yeah.
They would think it was sweet. So that helps me. And then
Love
the next thing I get to is just this idea of who can be the solution to my problem instead of how. And so I think in this next venture for you, you need to start looking around. You have a podcast producer, right?
He's amazing. Yeah.
And he probably handles one segment of the business. But start to visualize, what does the next level of my business look like? What do I want it to be?
How do we whiteboard it? Can you show me?
Yeah. I want you to do a couple things. I want you to get real tactical.
Okay.
I want you to tell me money first. How much money do we make? Then I want you to tell me time. How much time do I spend on the varying aspects of my business? What do I do as opposed to everybody else? And then pain. Where right now in my business am I unhappy with where I'm at? Do I not like it? And then we're going to start solving some issues. Money solves almost every issue because with money, you can solve, I don't have enough time. I don't want to do this. I have pain. So we start with money and we do the thing we don't want to do first, which is where in my business is there money waiting for me to find it? Where's the hidden money? Because there's hidden money in every business. And what you're going to do, because you know it better than anybody else, is you're going to start to go money hunting. And you're going to say, okay, in my business right now today, I'm probably not even charging as much as I need to for brand deals. So what if I don't even do anything differently, but I increase my prices by 20%? No more work, no more product, but I say, hey brands, I love working with you. Here's a little showing you how much money you give me right now and the type of rewards that I give you. I want 20% more. We're going to go to negotiate. And then time. Where am I spending time that I'm not actually, excuse me, Orchid.
Excuse me.
Where am I spending time that is not actually worth my dollar amount and money? And so let's say, for instance, you're spending a bunch of time scheduling people coming to your house, you're spending time scheduling your flights and et cetera. You're actually going to spend money to make some money here, and you're going to get a lower level assistant or somebody who's going to take care of all of this with you. And then where is my time so worth it that I need to spend more time on it? Where am I an independent center of gravity, that I am so uniquely skilled at this, that if I just do more of this, I will make more money? Where is that? And then you're going to become a crazy person, and you're going to say no to almost anything that falls in this too low bucket, and you're going to obsess on only the too high bucket. And we're only going to think about money for a minute. We're not going to think about what do I like. We're not going to think about what do I want to do. We're just going to solve for money, because money will allow us to do all these other things. And then finally, I'll let you think about pain.
Okay.
Where in your business are you like, if I have to do one more sweatpants video, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind? And we're going to find that for you. And then you're going to start asking yourself, who could solve this for me? Can I hire a young girl who becomes, this is probably a terrible idea, but it's just a brainstorming exercise. Yeah. Can I hire a young girl who is in all of my videos in the background, and she's wearing my sweatpants and she becomes a character in it? I don't even talk about it. She's just doing something ridiculous in every one. Sure. Can I pay somebody to come and create the content on this hand? And it's actually AI generated. So we're just going to brainstorm on this, but it's not going to be you, it's who. And if you do this set of things for anywhere from 60 to 90 days, and you actually obsess on, there's a who here, right? This is your lower level tasks. There's a who here. This person probably makes a little bit more money. But the rest of this is just you figuring out, where are you most valuable in your business, and where are you personally most valuable in your actions? If you do this continuously, you'll win. And then the only other thing I would say, can I do this?
Yeah.
I should have been a doctor. My handwriting is so bad.
Yeah. Mine's worse.
Really?
Yeah.
So the only other thing that I would say is every single business has a level. So I like to think about business types as, let's see if I can get it. Let's pretend that there's 10 of these here. So there's 10 levels of business. Mm-hmm. Some of the worst levels of business, you talked about one of them, affiliates. Why is an affiliate a really tough business? Because margins are really low, right? Volume's really high. So you got to be able to get massive eyeballs, but you make no money. Why? Because the brand makes all the money.
Yes.
So you make 1%, they make 99%, that's a bad business. As opposed to the highest level business, which is actually something where you either own the brand like you had previously, but you had to cut, you had to pay other people, or the highest level business is typically some type of money business. So it's like private equity. We buy these other businesses, I invest in these other businesses, and we use money as opposed to our time. And so as you're playing the game of business, figuring out, where do I make the most money with the least amount of effort and the least amount of pain? And then you really want to lean into that business. Because even a level 10 operator, like the best operator you could imagine, Elon Musk, right? An incredible operator in a level 1 business, aka an affiliate business, or even worse would be like a laundromat is a total level 1 business. It's really hard to get a laundromat that makes millions. So it's a great business to start at. It is not a great business to finish at. And so you want to make sure you understand how good are you and how good is the business you're in.
Wow. Okay. I can do that. I can definitely do that.
You could totally do that.
I have homework. I need homework.
Yeah. All you're going to do is you're going to sit down and you're going to basically look at all the ways that you make money. Yeah. And you're going to figure out which is the one that you make the most in. And if you don't have an idea you like in that business, then you're going to brainstorm with some of your smartest friends. And I think, so if you don't know what to do in your business, I like imitate, iterate, then innovate. So you can go online right now and you can see anybody else's business model. And you can be like, okay, there's some other people. Whitney Cummings, we were talking about her before. How does Whitney make money? Does Whitney make more or less money than I do I think? The ways that she make money, are they interesting to me? And you're going to imitate the people who you think have a better business model than you. Yeah. And then you're going to iterate on them. You're going to make it your own. And only then are you going to innovate, do something totally unique and different.
I love that. So it's imitate,
iterate,
innovate. Innovate. I love that. And I'll be honest, like I've seen other comedians who, and I've done well for myself certain years, right?
Yeah.
But then like my last 2 years were not great.
Yeah.
And it makes sense too. A huge change. And
Totally.
do you ever feel like it's always darkest before the dawn? Do you feel like there's some truth to that? Like sometimes you have to go kind of low to really explode to that next level?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you have to. I
Yeah.
think that the universe tells you what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then you don't listen. And then it nudges you. And then it pushes you. And then it punches you in the face. And if you don't listen, it will make you listen. And I've been there many, many times where I'm like, oh, I know I need to do this. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. And then bam. And so,
well, Tony Robbins talks a lot about people getting comfortable where they're at, and they
Yep.
never grow.
Yep.
And I think I had a bit of that too, where I just thought, oh, I'm making 6 figures on merch each month, 6 figures on monetization, 6 figures on brand deals. This is just going to keep happening forever.
Yeah.
And I can just keep doing this because I know it so well.
Yeah.
And you just think it's going to, and then everything sort of changes, right? The monetization changes. When you were talking about like charging 20% more for brand deals, I immediately was like, that's not going to work because people are out here doing them for nothing now.
Yeah.
And so how is that?
Well, so one thing I also
Wouldn't
try
the
in
smart
business
thing for me to be to have a brand?
could be. I try to never give really specific, like you have to do this
Sure.
in business unless I know exactly what the inside of your business is. I think too many people give, oh yeah, do this, 100% do that. And you know, I mean, the truth of the matter in business is you know your business probably better than you're giving yourself credit for. We all do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're right. If you're like, that's not going to work, that's not the move, listen to that. That's the right thing inside of you.
Yeah.
Now, somebody could come to you and they could say, well, don't tell me why it won't work. Tell me how it could work. And that might change your mind. You might go, well, what about if I did a brand deal where I owned part of the company?
Right.
So, okay, it could work to charge 20% more if I took less upfront, but I said I wanted ownership and cash flow distributions. You know, it could work if I had a surefire idea for how to sell more things and then I test it and I present it to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there could be ways.
Yeah.
But you could also be like, oh no, I've played this game. That's not the right one. And you got to listen to that and go, okay, no, that's not the game I want to play. What is? And like, you know the answer to that. And then your next answer is just who can help me get there?
Yeah.
And being vulnerable enough like you very much are to say that. And going and ask all of your smartest, I mean, one thing about rich people, they love to give advice. So going to all your richest friends and saying like, let me show you, here's a brief of my business. This is how we make money right now. This is where I'm struggling. What's a smarter way I could make money on this? People love to do that. And then when they start telling you all the things to do, you go, actually, I'm not an expert in all that. Who do you know that's the best ads person in the game? Who do you know that has the best agency for XYZ? What brands do you love? Do you know the owner of that brand? Can I talk to them? Because I actually would like to own part of that and grow it. And so first you start with how in your advice. Well, you really start with who. Go to your rich people. Then you ask them how. Then when they give you the how, you go back to who, which is who could you get me to here? Who do you know there? And so it's this cycle game of continuously how becomes just finding the right who.
How becomes finding the right who. I just think about all the brands that I've promoted through the years. Why didn't I think to have ownership in them, or why was I not advised? I immediately got mad at like my male agents and managers for not advising me to do that.
Well, think about
But
it.
it's not their fault.
Well,
that's my responsibility.
Maybe not really. I mean, theoretically,
Okay,
they're
it's their
your
fault.
agents.
It's
their
their
fault.
fault.
Everybody's fired, whoever they are.
You're fired.
So if you think about it, we're all like humans are we're Pavlov's dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're like reward and pain is what drives us.
Yeah.
So with agents, what you have to think about with them is they are incentivized to make money now with you because you're not going to stay with them forever, likely.
Doesn't benefit them if I own 20% of this period.
How do they make money on that?
Mm-hmm.
They don't make money. And so if your incentives are off, your outcomes are always going to be off, which is that statement by Peter Drucker, which is what gets measured gets managed. I always go back to that. I'm like, what am I measuring? Because that gets managed. And what am I measuring? How does that affect the outcome? So with salespeople,
Yeah.
you can't expect them to care about brand.
Right.
Why? They just want to sell to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And with your agent, you can't expect them to think about you long-term. Why? They're playing a short-term game, which is taking a cut. And so people don't think in long-term very well. And so you got to start asking yourself, okay, how could I incentivize my agent to get me these kind of deals? Could you say, if you structure these deals for me, I'll give you a little cut on the ownership? Could you just say, I'm not taking any deals unless it's this?
Wow.
Could you go to we're in talks with UTA. And one of the reasons that I like UTA and the agent that I'm talking to right now is he reps a couple people, I'll tell you who after, that I really like how they've structured their business. And they own the business outright. They do deals that have equity and ownership in them. And I liked that. So I was like, maybe I would do something like that with them.
Totally.
And so again, it's that like imitation first. Mimic what other people are doing that's working.
Yeah. And have the right team. Don't be afraid to delegate. Like there was one point where I was negotiating all my deals myself and I was doing just everything myself.
Yeah, no. Why do we women do that? It's tough. We have to break that.
Why do we do it again?
I mean, I think we do it because we're perfectionists and because for some reason we've been engineered to think that we should. I mean, I saw this post the other day and I wish I could give her credit because I can't remember her name, but the quote was, why do you strive after all these awards you don't even want? And the awards are, she never asked for help. She did everything perfectly. She didn't sleep. She was always the first one there and the last one to leave. It's like, I didn't want those awards. Why am I striving so hard to get them?
Wow.
And so now I try to ask myself that a lot. I'm like, what award do I want? And the award is not that.
Wow. That's amazing. How do we raise daughters who don't apologize for making money or wanting it?
Oof. Well, I would only refer to my dad here, but my father, a lot of people ask my dad, why is Codie such a psychopath? But also they ask him, why is Codie the way she is? Why is she so comfortable with money? Why is she comfortable with success? And there's a couple things I think he did that I have to give him massive credit for. One is he always used to say, when people would say, oh, it's your little princess or whatever, he would always say, you could be the president or a princess, but you could be either, you pick. And so he never labeled me as like, I had to be this little princess. Simultaneously, he would do things like, how people always say to like, you're beautiful. I bet your children are beautiful. And so you'll have a beautiful daughter and they'll say, oh, better watch out, for the boys with that one. And he would always respond back, oh Lord, they better watch out for her. And so I just always felt really empowered, and not in an anti-man way, which I think is totally ridiculous and not helpful, but in an, hey, I can handle my own way too. And it's amazing. I will ask for help for people, but I can do it myself. So that's first, is like empower you in your ability to continue to work hard. I also think he didn't read this book back then, but there's a lot about growth versus fixed mindset. Have you read any of Carol Dweck's work?
No.
It's a great book. It's called Mindset, but
Okay.
It could basically be summarized in two sentences, which is there are two types of people who have a growth mindset and people who have a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says, I am smart. You would think that seems like a good thing. A growth mindset is, I work hard. I work until I solve the problem. A fixed mindset says, I am smart, so I solve problems. Well, the problem with the fixed versus the growth mindset is when they fail at something, they have broken their entire frame. They think they are smart, static. They are sad, static. They don't think that they can actually evolve and grow. So what you want to do with kids is make sure that you say often, you work so hard, you keep going. You are the type of person that doesn't let things stop them. Like you will figure this out over the long term.
Resilient.
And I see it a lot. Like for instance, I think my parents did it with my brother and I. He was always, which is again, girls versus boys.
Yeah.
My brother was always, he's so smart. He's so good at math, and then they would kind of joke about the fact that I wasn't very good at math. And it used to bother me, but I think they did a huge favor for me, actually. I think by them saying, hey, Codie, you just work really hard. Yeah, you're not as good at math. That meant I'm like, okay, maybe I don't have to be good at math. I'm still going to figure this out,
Yeah.
And with him, I think it hurt him because when he couldn't figure something out, it was like, he would lose it. And so I think we got to tell our kids that they're capable of continuing to do hard things as opposed to little brilliant geniuses that if something goes wrong, it's because they're not smart enough.
Yeah, don't call your kids smart. I do hear that advice a lot, though.
Interesting.
You work hard. You work hard.
I was doing some studies because I was thinking about women and relationships.
Yeah.
And we know that women who are in long-term relationships and marriages, they actually are worth more money on average. So married couples worth more than non-married couples on an individual income adjusted basis, meaning not just because two of them are earning.
Why is that?
I don't know that we can say the causation as opposed to the correlation. It just appears to be true. And I think there are too many reasons why it could be for us to reasonably say one way or the other. But what that got me thinking is then, okay, if we know that two are more powerful than one, if that is true over time, then how do we find the one who doesn't make us miserable and is actually a good fit? Because we don't want to just marry anybody.
Sure.
And so I was doing some studies on what makes couples stay happy and married. And there's two types of couples that stay together longer than anybody else. One is faith-based. So if you love Jesus, you tend to love your wife or husband, and happily married, not just continue to stay married, which is important. Okay. But the second one I thought was really interesting is age proximity.
Whoa.
1 to 3 years.
No.
So actual
1 to 3 years?
Yeah. You're more likely to stay married.
My ex was 12 years older.
Mine was 4.
Really?
I actually never thought about that. Yeah.
That's wild.
So actually age proximity is
and faith
highly correlated.
Not just Jesus, any faith.
Any faith.
Okay.
Yes. Muhammad.
All right.
I don't know what else.
The other ones.
The
Buddhism.
There you go.
I'm into Buddhism.
Me too. So anyway, so I thought those two things were really interesting.
Very.
And then the second is that you're more likely to stay married as a man if you find your spouse attractive. But as a woman, you are actually less likely to stay married to your husband if attractiveness was your top trait. And what I think is interesting about that is that pushes back really hard on Tinder and Hinge and all these things where we're like, okay, they got to be 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, all that nonsense. Turns out we should not do that. That leads to us being less happy. So I'm having dinner tonight with Sean Rad, who I love, who is the founder of Tinder. And I love to talk shit to him about all the societal issues his app has called, which I'm sure he finds fun.
Totally.
But I was like, I think it's bad that we go and choose partners based on physical attributes and we can pre-screen them so we never see anybody who is not the attribute that we want.
Wow.
That is actually, that appears to be really bad for happiness and relationships. So
but that's what Tinder wants, isn't it? They don't actually want you to find lasting love or you won't be on the app.
Yeah.
It's like gaming.
You're right. It's incentive alignment. Follow the incentives and you'll find the real outcome. So I think you're right. So those I thought were really interesting.
Tell him that. Tell him that he's out here ruining lives.
Well, he sold it. So now he's not in charge.
Oh, okay. There you
go. So he's happily married. He's a great guy.
Where did you meet your husband? Then I want to keep going with this.
I've known my husband since I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah. So we met in middle school and we went to prom together. I know. And then he was a grade younger than I am, and 4 months older. I would like the record to state, not a full year. But anyway, I went to college. He went to the Naval Academy. And we stayed out of touch for decades. And then our dads actually reconnected us. And so my dad and him stayed friends that whole time and they hunt together. And then one day sort of were like, you two should catch up. And so we did. Wow. And then, and he's
And when did you know your first husband that it was over? Was there a moment?
Yeah. There were a lot of moments. I mean, if I'm super honest, I kind of knew before I got married. Wow. Did you know before you got married? Like, I had a moment that I never had with Chris, which was that cold foot moment.
I had a cold foot moment. Yeah. I had a cold foot moment. And I thought it was just fear.
I thought it was normal.
I ignored it. Yeah.
And I actually talked to my mom and my best friend about it. And I was like, I don't know if this is right. And I was pretty young. I was like 23 or 24.
Same.
Yeah.
Same things.
And I didn't listen to that. And I really should have. And I didn't want to let him down. I was like, oh my God, we're so far along. And I said yes. And I'm going to break his heart and that would be awful. And no, it would have been better for everybody involved. Yeah. And I didn't And I think he probably had a cold foot moment too, but neither of us were ballsy enough to say it.
Yeah.
But then I remember the moment very well. I mean, at some point, I wish I had thought earlier in getting married about what sort of life I wanted and what sort of life he wanted, and been super honest about if those aligned. Because I was working when we met, super hard, climbing my way up, and I love working. Like, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite thing besides my partnership and my family. And he really, at his core, wanted a stay-at-home wife, and he wanted to work, and he wanted her to have kids and him to be at the country club with her. And that was the life that he wanted. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that was not the life that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I think he thought because he was a little older, he would be able to mold me. And I thought he would get over it because he kind of knew who I was. And so I remember like a moment where, did you ever have a moment in your marriage where like I was sitting around a group of people, we were at a dinner at our house. We had a beautiful, huge house in Dallas. I had just finished designing the whole thing. We'd spent all this money on it. And I was sitting at this table and I was so miserable. And I had no reason I should have been. Like, we had money and it was beautiful and everybody was nice. And I just remembered like astral projecting almost 10 or 20 years down the line and being like, I would rather die. I don't want this life. I'm so uninterested.
Wow.
And I wish I'd thought about that sooner. But and there were like, and he's not public, so I don't like to air any of the whatever, my story about it. Because I don't know that I thought that was fair. But we just had really different ethics and morals and vision of life. And so if I could do it again, and I did with Chris, I sat down and was like, here's all the good things that are good and bad about me, I think. Here's like what I want out of life. Here's like the moral compass I live by. I might change some of this, like at the periphery, but the core I won't.
Yeah.
What about you? Who are you? And so we literally sat down and did a whiteboard session. That's actually how I talked Jeff into getting a divorce too. I was like, I want you to whiteboard. Yeah. Is that awful? Who does that?
You do.
I literally sat him down and I was like, I want you to write out all the things you want out of life. I want me to write it down. And I want you to be really honest about where you see the crossover. And we did that. And there wasn't a lot of crossover.
And was it easier for him to accept after that?
I don't know. I don't think it's ever easy to get, your heart broken. And especially when it's not your choice. It was my choice.
Yeah. And
so I think that was hard. I think for all intents and purposes, he seems very happy now and has a better life, and it's perfect for him.
It's amazing that you were courageous enough to listen to that and take that step. Because I think a lot of people, especially the boomer generation, they just were taught to stay.
They stayed.
You stay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, my mom, I think, cried harder than I did the first time I got divorced. She was like, how could you? Are you sure you're going to be alone and miserable forever? And I had to like literally sit down with my dad, and I took him on a trip, and just him and I, and was like, I'm going to get a divorce. Here's what's going to happen. I need you to be supportive of with me, because mom's not going to be. And, and then I told him all the things happening so I could fully get him on board. And so then he helped, with my mom. But
this whole narrative in your new marriage, it seems like you guys have an incredible dynamic, but it is unconventional in that you're the breadwinner, you make more.
Yeah.
Does that ever cause any issues, insecurity, or resentment on your end? We're just being advised, right, online always to date up, or like never marry someone who makes less than you. What do you say to that?
I totally disagree.
Okay,
I think
tell me. I love this.
I think you're absolutely crazy to measure a human by how much money they make.
I love it.
I think it makes no sense whatsoever. And for him now, we are very aligned because he runs our venture capital fund and our holding company. So now theoretically we make the same amount because it's our business. He just runs different divisions than I make. But he's the first one. If he was here, he would say, and said it to me yesterday. He's like, this is such an incredible life we've built. Thank you for taking the risk. Thank you for, moving our family forward in this way. Like without you doing this, we would not be here. And so he has no ego, that man, about origin, because he knows our saying to each other is always same team. So, if we're fighting and I think Y and he thinks X, I'll just be like, you know what, same team. And he'll do the same thing. because it really is us against the world. And so, no, I don't. And in fact, for like badass, high achieving, intense women,
Yeah.
I highly recommend a really strong, protective dude who doesn't play the who makes the most money game. I really recommend it. It's worked out great for me.
Wow.
And, like find yourself a Navy SEAL who's not too trauma bound. It's not absolutely psychopathic. And when you find them, lock them up,
Wow. Okay. All right. Keep going.
What else do we have here? Let's see. Maybe the only other one is, I think that the one other one I would highlight is, I do, unfortunately for women still, I do think we have to be honest about the fact that coming off as really aggressive and girl bossy is not loved in multiple scenarios. And so I found that in corporate world, we talked about that, it's not that loved. And so one thing I would say is if you're going to go hard and you're going to be an aggressive woman in business, if I could leave you with one thing, it would be like build your own business. Because I do not think that we get rewarded in the corporate culture as much for being hard driving as we do in small business and independent business, which is a little politically incorrect to say. But I think corporate culture has this veneer of like PC, let's promote more women, blah, blah, blah. Let's put them on the boards. But I don't actually think they're there for it yet. I think a lot of times if you want to be hard charging, you got to take the bull by the horns and you got to run the business yourself. And then nobody really cares. I mean, I had a guy yesterday on a phone call with me. He starts out the call with, "Yeah, I hear you're really aggressive." And I was like, interesting. And then now my feedback to that is usually I just go, "Oh," and I put on my like best like little doe eyes face. I just go, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" Because what do you mean? Yeah, that's much better.
What does that mean?
Who's the actress in this group? Right. And they can never really explain what that means.
Wow.
And so now often
like they've never called a man and been like, "So I hear you're aggressive."
Could you imagine?
No.
They'd be like, "Yeah, I have a penis. That's what we do." Like it's so.
Have you had a lot of gross men, like working in finance, being one of the only women and a beautiful woman at that? How?
Yeah, for sure.
And how did you deal with it? Did you ever have to report anyone?
I mean, I had one, this is a little ridiculous, but I do remember vividly. I had this one time I was at a finance company at the time. I was like one of the youngest MDs, managing directors at the company. And we were at a bar. It was, I think, like a holiday party or something. And I was married at the time. And one of the execs there, who I was kind of friends with, and he was married too, and everybody was drinking, big drinking culture in finance. And for some reason, he like came up behind me and slapped my ass so hard it left a red mark. Like I remember that specifically afterwards. And I can't remember what he said. You know how when stuff that happens to that to you, kind of black out. I was like, whoa, what just happened? And then made some joke, and then like everybody laughed. And so I laughed, because I was like, what am I supposed to do in this scenario? Yeah. And when I look back on it, I do wish that I had the aggressiveness I have now. That would be different. My reaction would be different today. But back then I just kind of laughed and was like, whatever.
What would you have done today?
I mean, I wouldn't be violent, but I would think violent thoughts, but I would say, hey, it's totally inappropriate. Why'd you do that? And I wouldn't go and report it or whatever, most likely, unless it was repeated. But I would be like, that's totally inappropriate. Don't ever touch me like that. Why did you think that was appropriate for you to do?
Yeah.
And I probably would say to the rest of the people here, totally inappropriate that you laughed. Yeah. What if somebody touched your daughter like that? Do you think that that's appropriate?
Wow.
It's not. So please don't do it again. We're still friends. Like we can move past this, but not if you ever do that to me or another woman in my presence again. And I think we're better at that for other women than we are for ourselves.
Yeah.
At least absolutely. I was. So definitely there were many a moment. But I give myself a lot of grace from, that young girl that probably just didn't have the balls to do that yet.
Yeah.
It must have happened to you in Hollywood too, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I was just thinking about one of the agents I had in the past called me about some video I was in. He was like, "Yeah, great video. And your looked great.
Oof.
And I was like, don't ever say that to me again.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Good for
I go, don't
you.
ever say that to me again. Don't talk about my tits.
Good
What is
for you.
wrong with you? I probably went too hard, but I was so angry. He goes, Laura, not like that. Not like that. No, I was like, no, don't ever do that. I was so disturbed and angry.
Yeah.
Like, but I think too, that was into my content creation when I didn't feel like I needed this man to succeed.
Yep.
So I felt in a much more powerful, liberated position where it's like, I'll drop you if you ever say something like that to me again. You're done.
Yeah.
You know, and he knew, and he's never crossed that line ever again, right?
Good for you.
Because I was, but if I was like a commercial actor and broke and struggling and like need the job, I've had directors, producers be horrific to me. And I've sort of put up with it and dealt with it because, you know, you're in a desperate situation. So you just endure this really inappropriate behavior. It's horrible.
Yeah.
You know, I had a producer who was definitely a sex addict and he would talk about his sexual experiences with other women in front of me all the time. And it would make me so uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable, but I just shut up and went, oh yeah, because I didn't want to lose the job.
Yeah.
You know?
That is the hard part. And I think now it's a totally different world. I think they'd have a hell of a lot harder time, at least in the US. But I do think, I'm curious, like that guy later years who slapped my ass the first time, years later after I'd been at the business for a while, I saw him at a bar at an event and he was hitting on our event planner. And I was a partner at the firm by then. So I was like, and he was married. And so I do remember I went at him, and I was like, Mike, you are married. I am here. I will not be a party to the lies associated with this. This young girl, like you have a position of power over, don't it. And I mean.
What did he say?
Well, I was like, if you are so horny, you can't handle it, go to the bathroom. I'll get you a Kleenex.
Whoa.
And
that's amazing.
And I remember one of the other guys was like, and this is why we don't hire women in finance. And now Dan, I'll never forget him.
Wow.
Is that a line? But, and I just said, you guys, like you're acting like a bunch of frat boys. This is so beneath you. But they had been drinking a lot at that point. But at least like at some point you get to the level where you're like, guys, we're not doing, I'm at least, you do you. I don't want to be a party to it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, do you, but it's not with me around. I'm not going to lie for you.
Do you have a preference of who you enjoy working with, more men or women?
I'm pretty equal opportunity now.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I have an incredible president I just hired who's a dude. I obviously work with my husband.
Sure.
Actually, you know what? Back in the day, I used to like working with men more than women. Yeah. I think they had like what they call like the one woman policy in finance back in the day. We would kind of compete with each other. And maybe that was even just my lack of involvement. But the other women and I always felt like we were kind of, we were rubbing up against each other. And so I think for a while I didn't love that. And then I started hiring a lot of women in my businesses and we became buddies and it was super fun. And now we have men and women and it's kind of awesome, all of them. Yeah. But we have a no assholes policy, like, Okay. Yeah. So if anybody does anything inappropriate, they get called out on all sides, including me. And, life's too short to work with people you hate.
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to think because, most of my followers, 85% millennial women, a lot of them moms. So you're really speaking to them. Okay. Oh, what did I write here? Can you create a business for moms that lets us nap and still get paid?
I love that. Also the look on your face right now. This is like a real visceral need. Is it because you only have like 2 extra hours in the day and that goes to napping? And so it would only be, I mean, the part about business that's true is like, it takes a lot of work to start. And so I don't think there are any easy buttons or silver bullets. I wish there were.
But for the mom who's primary caretaker and wants financial freedom, financial independence.
I mean, I don't have kids, so I can't really speak to what it would take if you were a mom. What I can say is the moms who work with me and who I'm friends with, where it works and they're winning, is their family and their kids are integrated into the business.
Whoa.
And
How so?
and at least that's the same with me and my husband. Like I've hired my brother, my dad, my husband, my mom at varying points. And so, I mean, a good example of mine, we were talking about her before, Danny Austin. Like her kids are just part of her life. They're in the videos. They're hanging out with her 24/7. Their office is right next to where they live. Her husband supports what she does. Who else? Another great friend of mine, Theo. Theo's kids help her. She always has them, she does stuff with cooking. So she has them taste test. And so they're like super involved. They tend to not see mom working as a conflict from mom momming. And so there's not this work separation of life. It's integrated.
Wow, that's so cool. And you said you hired your husband. So you think working with your spouse is not because I mean people, it's very polarizing, that whole thing on whether it's good or bad for a relationship.
Well, I think working with your spouse is the greatest unlock in the world if you set a bunch of expectations up front and are willing to do the really hard work on, are you two a good fit to work together?
Yeah.
And then if you're not, have an exit clause. Like I basically told him, here's my list of like non-negotiables. If this happens in business, I'm out. AKA, I don't fight or like yell in business. Like I just don't. I don't believe in it. I don't think that's a good practice. And so if we are going to get in altercations and big fights because we're working together, then we're not going to work together. That doesn't work for me.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And so I think you could set your rules. But I'm not sure I would still be married if we didn't work together because I love working so much and I like talking about it, and he would need to integrate into that.
Wow. It's so funny. My ex and I, a lot of people get married and they're like, oh my God, I regret the last 10 years of my life. I'm like, absolutely not. We had an incredible run. It was so much fun. And part of what kept us so close was that we worked together.
Yeah.
We loved it. We were creating all the time, working towards a common goal. It was so exciting. We do these walks in the morning where we'd, I call them gratitude walks, and we'd visualize everything we were grateful for, talk about it, all of it. And then the next part, I actually got this from Tony Robbins. Then it was, you start with gratitude and then you move into visualization and just visualizing what you want to achieve, your 6-month goals or whatever it is. And you talk about it and then how you want the day to go. And we get to do that together because we were so connected. The problem was we started feeling like business partners more than husband and wife, right? So you're laying in bed together and you're still talking about whatever work shit, right? And and then if something wouldn't go well, I felt it would bleed into our personal life.
Oh.
So, right. It was like, if he was mad about the business not doing well for whatever reason, then we felt more distant as husband and wife.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing though. And I don't know that we would have been married as long as we were without
him,
because I was also obsessive around my work and I just thought about it all the time. And it was so exciting. And to be able to share that with him
was huge.
Yeah. So now in my next, I have a boyfriend now. And I think about, there's things like, oh, could we work together in a certain way? And I've really backed off. I really separate that side because I'm so scared to have that same thing happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't do it until I was married. Like until we're making the ultimate commitment, you don't get to be part of my business. Yeah. So that would be like a sorry.
But I think about it in the future, like, would I want to work with him?
Well, what worked for me in this go round was we're not business partners. He would be the first to say that.
Right.
He'd be like, this is your business. That's step one. Step two, the part that is his business now is not my main business. So he runs the venture fund and the holdco. And I am not involved day to day in his enterprise. Those are his to run. And so at least for us, it would be hard. Like I wouldn't have hired him to be my president for my business, handling the financials for the main business that I run. He had to carve his own sphere out. That is actually his sphere of genius. He's so good at it.
What is the main business that you run?
The main business that we have is our media business.
Okay.
And so our media business is all of this. This is what I spend most of my time on is, all the videos that we make, YouTube, et cetera. What I've had for a long time that he runs, and then one of our employees runs the other one, is the holding company where we own all of our individual businesses and the venture capital fund. Chris spends the most time on venture. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so it's kind of nice because it's his sphere. So he updates me, lets me know what's going on. But we're not, a lot of times we kind of joke, I have a great day and he'll have the terrible day. That he'll have a great day and I'll have a terrible day because our businesses are they're both ours, but they're not the same. And that works for us.
Okay. Let's see. What else did I have for you? I'm learning so much. Thank you so
I feel
much.
like I'm just vomiting business stuff at you.
It's amazing. I need it. Okay. So you invest in boring businesses. That's your whole thing. So I have a few pitches for you.
Let's do it.
And I want you to tell me, can we make millions or should I be legally banned from brainstorming? Okay.
Right.
Okay. First one, just chairs. Just chairs. We fix chairs, only chairs, no couches. If someone calls about a bench, we hang up.
I think that's a ban. Not a good business. No.
Not a good business?
Yeah, too small of a TAM. You can't have a big enough average order value like for every customer that you get. You probably can't charge enough. You got logistics issues. How are you going to get them back and forth unless you started being a broader fixer of things?
Not just chairs, though.
Not just chairs. Chairs, we got to go. We got to let that one go.
Envelope experience, okay? Minimalist retail space where people can browse envelopes, nothing else. It's just beige, no music. No one greets you, just envelopes.
Also banned. This is not a good business
But
idea.
it's boring.
It is boring.
That's your whole thing.
Boring, not enough margin, not expensive enough. You need some color
envelopes?
variety. Yeah, white privilege in your envelopes.
Okay, this is a good one. Yawn Box. It's like the Calm app, but instead of meditations, it's just old people telling you the same story over and over again.
This is so people go to sleep.
Yeah.
That might actually work.
You like it?
Yeah, women can't sleep very well either, especially moms. This might be your business. This is your target market, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Will you invest in it?
We're going to have to see a little MVP first. We're going to have to see your minimal viable product.
Okay. All right. What else do I have? Petty. It's Uber Eats, but for revenge. So you send something deeply annoying to someone who wronged you, like cold fries, dead flowers, or a dead rat.
Oh my God, I love this business. You know, there's an actual business out there called Buy a Troll, and you can hire trolls online and sick them at people. I don't know what kind of margins they make or how much money they make, but that could actually, you'd have a marketing strategy there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but probably not very good for the soul. I don't know about that part.
Think a lot of lawsuits?
Well, I don't know if you can get in trouble for sending
a dead rat.
Well, that probably might not be great. But Nikita Beer has an entire strategy on Twitter where he only builds apps for revenge. It's the only thing that he does.
What do you mean?
He built like an app exclusively because Snapchat refused to buy his business after they told him he was going to buy it, and he torpedoed their stock for like 3 days.
Wow.
So you could be the Nikita Beer of Instagram.
Okay, this is my favorite one. This is called the Flow and Go. All right. It's a period cup that doubles as a reusable matcha cup.
It's disgusting. I can't even, you Californians, I can't even get into the Diva cups.
Come on.
No, I'm out. But you probably could sell it to people here. You know, get some celebrity.
It's good for the environment.
Oh, that is pretty gross.
Really?
No.
You wouldn't invest in that?
I would not invest
All
in
right,
that.
whatever. I think it's great. That's it.
I think we got some work to do.
We have work to do.
We don't
right?
have your
we don't
have your number one business yet.
What's okay, for any woman who's struggling financially, what are your top 3 pieces of advice?
If you're struggling financially today, what I'd do first is get in rooms where other people already have the thing that you want. I call it getting in rooms where other people's Tuesday is your dream day. So a lot of times I think when we're stuck is because we're around people that aren't inspiring us to get to the next level. I actually think success is pretty contagious. So try to get in rooms where other women are building and doing and already have the life that you want and are willing to talk about it, how to get there. I think it's a lot easier to lose weight if you only hang out with CrossFitters that don't drink, that only eat protein. Same thing for business. So that would be step 1, just change your crowd. Yeah. And then I think step 2 would be you got to change what you eat. And in this case, that's just what you consume. So are you watching trash TV? Are you listening to trash podcasts? Are you watching trash Instagram? Or are you doing things that uplift you and make you better and make you learn more about money and otherwise? That would be step 2. And then step 3 is I like calendaring it. If you have a specific goal that you want, don't allow procrastination to reign and put on your calendar the date at which you will have done X thing or achieved X thing.
Wow.
This is super embarrassing. Yeah. I've never said this one publicly, I don't think before, but I actually, I I put get divorced on my calendar. I had like a deadline for when I was. Yeah, I wish I screenshotted that back, but because I was just procrastinating. And I was like, we got to make a decision by this date. So I had my plan for how to fix the marriage. And when that didn't work, I had like plan 2 and then plan 3. And then when that didn't work, I was like, well, X date or I have to get divorced.
Wow.
I know that's not going to be popular.
Okay, so goals. So do you have like 3-month goals, 6-month goals, 1-year goals?
Yeah, but it's probably smaller in the beginning. It's probably like make a decision to do more sales in my business in the next 30 days. And just like every day I need to sell for 20 minutes a day. I need to try to make more money. I want to just do trying for the next 30 days. It doesn't have to be like your life all laid out. It can literally just be what we call your next step, which is like, what is the equivalent to you in making money of putting out your gym clothes and tennis shoes by the bed each night? How can you just do that? Because I do think that trial compounds, attempts compound. And that might be all you need is just to change a habit or 2.
Why do you feel like most people, and we'll wrap up, I swear. I know you have things to do. I know. But why do you feel like most people are struggling financially and feel so out of control?
Well, you're not crazy if you're struggling financially. Home prices are more expensive than they've ever been. Actually, most prices are more expensive than they've ever been. Debt levels are the highest they've ever been. Education levels are the highest that they've ever been. Inflation on a real adjusted basis, not how the government derives it, is one of the highest it's been in our lifetime. It is categorically harder out there right now for people monetarily. So don't feel bad if you're struggling. That is reality. Now it's like, okay, with reality, what do we do with it? And I think what we do with it is realize that there is money to be made in every market, but it takes longer than we think, and we have to work a little harder than we think on it. And so if I was going to change my outcome, it would be by obsessing a little bit on money and being okay, saying like, for this next 6-month period, I'm not boring, I'm building. Like, I'm only focusing on things that are going to get me out of this money rut.
And the main way is buying a business or a part of a business.
I think the main way is business and sales. And if you can get into a position in a career where you can sell more things, then what do you have? You have incentive alignment. For everything that you do, you make money. That's good. That's a great way to start. But it could also be buying a business, because I think that controlling your outcome is one of the strongest things you can do. And it could also be building a business. Just make sure you're doing it profitably as fast as possible. So at the end of the day, don't feel bad if you're struggling. The entire country is struggling in one way or other, by and large. Like, you're not alone. Most people are like this. The good thing is, though, that it's not rocket science to get out of it. You are totally capable of it. If you're honest, you're probably just doing a lot more of what you want to do as opposed to what is required.
Wow. What's the thing you say about upfront pain equals long-term gain?
Yeah, I mean, long-term. So a couple different things. If you play short-term games, you win short-term prizes. If you play long-term games, you win long-term prizes. And so I do think you want to sacrifice more of today for your future, and then future you will really thank you for it. And especially if you're young. Like, if you're young millennials right now, you said a lot of your audience is Gen Z, man, if you guys figure this out right now, you will really love yourself in 10 to 20 years. I think you can completely change your entire life inside of 3 to 5 years. And you could even affect the lives of your kids and your next generation in 5 to 10. So like, don't lose hope. Just get started.
Just get started. Wow. I love you.
Oh, right back at you.
You're amazing.
I want you to tell me about your business and your next level. And if you share more with me, I'll think about it for you too. And I'll share some models with you.
Okay.
Because I think you have like such an incredible mousetrap. Now it's just figuring out like what sort of cheese do we put in there to get the biggest outcome that we want.
Exactly. It's like, I just have to shift and change. And I know, like, when I like what you said about imitate, I look at other communities and it's like, they're making the majority of their money touring, doing live. And that's something I've never done because I didn't have to. I was too comfortable. I don't have to. I can make videos without my pants on. You wouldn't know because of the table. I just haven't had to put pants on, in 12 years. So it's like, now I'm at this point where I'm a little uncomfortable, but I got to say it's kind of exciting. Yeah. Like, I'm actually excited by it. I'm going, oh, wow. Cause I still believe in myself and everything I've built, it's like, I don't think it's over. No. I just go, okay, I need to shift and redirect and, walk through fear.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. I was so scared of live. You know, we become so comfortable with like, right?
Scary.
You're so good at what you do
Yeah.
that is it ever hard to walk out of your comfort zone and try something new?
Oh God, every time. I'm
Right?
scared all the time. I just do it anyway.
You just do it anyway.
Which is really, really hard. But I mean, for you in particular too, I think and don't just look at comedians. Like you're not just a comedian. Remember, you're putting yourself in that box.
Right.
So it's like you're a comedian, but you're also a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
You also understand business. You're also a podcaster. You also were an actress. It sounds like you've also like done some production stuff before.
Author. I had a brand. Do you think I should
Exactly.
bring back my brand?
I think you have to put up on the wall all your possibilities and then assign them a dollar amount. How much money can they make you? How much time will it take? Can you handle the doing of the thing? And what is the pain that you are willing to tolerate for it? And when you lay them all out, you're going to quickly see. And the way you do that is you just look at like, okay, so Hannah Berner makes, I don't know. Hannah, how much do you make touring? Can you just tell me the number? Whitney, what do you make touring? How much do you make? I mean, the first time I talked to Whitney and who's the other guy? Fuck, I can never remember his name, but I can see his. Anyway, he's a comedian and I had him on my podcast. And I was like, how do you make money as a comedian? I was like, how much do you sell tickets for? How much do you take home? So what do you make? So what's the real play? That doesn't seem like enough money. I remember I saw Whitney for the first time. She was speaking at like a comedy show. And I said to my other friend, I'm like, how much do they pay her to do that for an hour? And he's like, oh, this. I'm like, that's not enough. And so I immediately am asking people how they make money so I could reverse engineer what they do. And so you don't want to just look at comedians.
Sure.
You might want to look at Jay Shetty. What does he do for his podcast? How does he make all of his money? You'd want to look at Stephen Bartlett, another big podcaster. You'd want to look at like Danny Austin, who has a brand and that does like 12 million a year or something like that. And so put them all up on there and be like, which of those am I uniquely skilled enough to do? And then go after one.
And if I'm not uniquely skilled enough, right? Like I had these visions of Boybs, my clothing brand, to be like a sort of Goop or Honest, where it's not just my products, but it's a marketplace, because I have such a concentrated audience of women, millennial moms, that it's like, why couldn't I do that? Because what I know how to do is create viral, relatable content.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's just like, I feel like I just never had the team behind me to make that happen, you know?
Well, so don't limit yourself based on what you've done historically. The real question for you is going to be, okay, here's all my opportunities. Let's dollar amount all my opportunities. Now, which one of them do I think I'm going to be best and most skilled at? And then what am I not going to be skilled at that I got to hire or find other people for?
Mm-hmm.
And hire could mean vendors. Hire could mean a partnership, but on a milestone-based basis, meaning like they have to do X to get Y. They can't just show up, you know?
Yeah.
And so you can look at that across the whole thing. And then maybe you are like, shoot, didn't work that first time, but I still think it's there. And here's the angle. And then you're going to run that by a couple people. And what might even be fun is once you do it, put together a little deck.
Mm-hmm.
And like, here's why.
Yeah.
And then go shop it to people for investment. But you might not even want to take their dollars. You just want to hear their feedback. Where is this not going to work? Like, why don't you like this? Is the pricing right? You know, they shop us all the time. So like you can do the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't have to take their money.
And how many revenue streams should you have ideally?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Definitely more than one, especially in any business has more than one. But I wouldn't the average millionaire has somewhere between 7 and 12.
Sure.
But I'm not sure that's like causation to becoming a millionaire. I think that's just what happens when you have a ton of money and you start allocating it to different areas. But I'm excited for your next venture. You have the most important thing out there, which is attention. It's the most valuable resource in the world. We cannot make more of it, people's time. And so now all you have to do is figure out, what do I want to slot in front of my humans where they still trust me and I feel like I am providing a real service to them, and thus I will get profits. You know?
Don't do affiliates.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't.
Girl.
Yeah,
that was how low my bottom was. I was like, well, and hey, no shade, because I think a lot of people out there, whatever, they're, no.
Oh, well, I think like NerdWallet is a great example. They were like one of the best affiliate companies out there, but even they didn't make enough money on affiliate margin-wise long-term for that to be a sustainable business.
Okay.
So I think I think brands are taking advantage of people who do affiliate only.
100%.
But it's okay. Like you do what you
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
You do it in the beginning just like you work minimum wage. You're just not supposed to stay there.
Right.
So do affiliate. Awesome.
Yeah.
And listen, in some of my businesses, we have deals with our companies where we make X when we send them Y people, aka affiliates, but I also own part of the company, right? Or we might get a big chunky brand sponsor and I want a percentage of affiliate sales.
Sure.
And when you're testing stuff in the beginning, it's all good. You're like, yeah, they're going to pay me $50 here. I'm making $0. I want to understand what my audience is actually worth to a brand. Awesome. Do it. But I think monetization on platform and affiliate only, aka ads and affiliates, are both tough businesses for the long term, super volatile.
Absolutely.
So I'm careful of those.
Yeah. Anything else you want to leave our audience with?
Just that I think it's super brave, all of you guys. Like, I want to be a mom badly. I think it is so cool that we can make humans. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important. And I think women are really important and powerful, and not in like a pejorative, feminist, men are bad way. But just, I'm really glad that you have this show where you attract all these women to funny things, and then you also feed them with things that can make their lives better. And so I think it's really cool. And I'm, your audience listening to this is obviously very, smart and thoughtful, and they're going to make real impact on the world. So I'm honored to be here.
Where can they find you?
Codie Sanchez on all the Instagrams and YouTubes. And we have a newsletter called Contrarian Thinking, which shows that branding doesn't matter, because can anybody even spell contrarian thinking? There's like so many vowels. So
branding doesn't matter?
Yeah, because that's a bad brand name. Contrarian thinking is not a good one. It's not very good. But it still works. So just go start wherever you are.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming.
Dude, you're the best. I'm gonna make sure we have each other's contact information.
Yeah, I would love that.